Never ignore warning signs, even when their meaning is unclear. Wisdom can come from unexpected places. Long ago, in the ancient days of Iboland, there stood a peaceful village called Obinagu. Obinagu rested between thick forests and rolling hills. Crystal clear streams flowed around the village, and giant iroko trees towered above the land like silent guardians. The people of Obinagu lived simple but happy lives. At sunrise, farmers carried hoes to their yam farms. Women gathered at the marketplace to sell vegetables, palm oil, and woven baskets. Children chased one another through dusty paths, while elders sat beneath the village ogalisi tree, sharing stories from generations past. Life followed a peaceful rhythm, and in almost every compound lived a dog. The dogs guarded homes, accompanied hunters into the forest, and alerted families whenever strangers approached. Among all the dogs in Obinagu, one was different. His name was Bingo. Bingo belonged to an elderly hunter named Dyke. Dyke had raised Bingo since he was a tiny puppy rescued from the forest after a heavy storm. As Bingo grew, villagers noticed unusual things about him. Whenever dangerous animals approached a compound, Bingo would begin barking long before anyone saw them. When storms were coming, he became restless, hours before clouds appeared. Once, he even led villagers to a missing child who had wandered into the forest. Because of these strange abilities, many people believe Bingo possessed a special gift from the ancestors. Some said ancestral spirits guided him. Others laughed and said he was simply an intelligent dog. But everyone respected him. One evening during the dry season, something strange happened. The sun slowly disappeared behind distant hills. Orange light faded into darkness. Families gathered around cooking fires, children prepared for sleep. Suddenly, Bingo stood up. His ears stiffened, his tail lowered. A deep growl escaped his throat. Then he lifted his head towards the sky. "Awoo!" The mournful cry echoed across the village. Moments later, another dog answered, then another, and another. Soon, dozens of dogs were howling together. "Awoo! Awoo!" The sound sent chills through the villagers. Women exchanged nervous glances. Children moved closer to their parents. Old men shook their heads uneasily. "What troubles these animals?" they asked. But nobody knew. The next morning, everything appeared normal. The marketplace was crowded. Farmers returned to work. The previous night's strange event was soon forgotten. Only Bingo remained uneasy. Throughout the day, he kept staring toward the forest. Sometimes he would suddenly stop walking and listen carefully to something no one else could hear. Old Dyke noticed. "Bingo, what is it you see?" he whispered. The dog simply stared into the distance. That night the howling returned. This time it lasted longer. The cries sounded sadder, more desperate. Some dogs refused food. Others stared into empty spaces as though invisible visitors stood before them. Fear slowly spread through Obinagu. By the third night, strange rumors filled the village. A woman claimed she saw a dark shadow pass behind her hut. A farmer swore he heard footsteps following him home. Children spoke of seeing glowing eyes among distant trees. The elders dismissed the stories as fear and imagination. Yet even they felt uneasy. Meanwhile, a young boy named Chica became obsessed with discovering the truth. Chica was Dyke's grandson. Unlike many children, he was brave and curious. One afternoon, he secretly followed Bingo. The dog led him to the edge of the forest. There, Bingo stopped. His fur rose. A low growl escaped his throat. Then he backed away. Chica looked around. Nothing was there. Only trees. But suddenly he heard something. A branch snapped deep within the forest. The boy immediately ran home. That evening, he told his grandfather what he witnessed earlier. Dyke listened carefully. He just knew there is a big trouble around the corner. For the first time, worry appeared on the old hunter's face. That same night, the village chief called an emergency gathering. People filled the village square carrying lanterns. Everyone spoke at once. Fear hung in the air. Finally, the oldest elder, Masi Okonkwo, stood. Silence followed. "Our ancestors taught us that animals often sense danger before humans," he said. "We must not ignore these warnings." The elders agreed to seek the wisdom of Osandu, the diviner. Osandu lived beyond the stream in a lonely hut surrounded by sacred trees. The next morning, the elders visited him. After hearing their story, Osandu prepared his consultation. He spread white chalk upon the ground. He placed sacred objects beside him. Then he closed his eyes. Minutes passed. The forest seemed unusually quiet. Suddenly, Osandu's eyes flew open. His face turned pale. "A shadow walks near Obinagu," the elders gasped. "What shadow?" they asked. But Osandu slowly shook his head. "The spirits reveal only danger. The rest remains hidden." The news spread quickly. Fear tightened its grip on the village. Days passed. The dogs continued crying every night. A hunter reported seeing smoke rising from deep within the forest. Some villagers became convinced evil spirits were responsible. Others believed witches were gathering at night. Arguments broke out throughout Obinagu. The village was no longer peaceful. One evening, a frightened farmer rushed into the square. He claimed he had seen a ghost near the ancient mahogany tree. The villagers gathered around him. "What did it look like?" they asked. "Tall," he replied. "Too tall to be human." The story increased everyone's fear. That night, no one dared leave their homes. The dogs howled louder than ever before. Bingo barked continuously toward the forest. Near midnight, Chica noticed something unusual. The howling suddenly stopped. Every dog in the village became silent. The silence felt even more frightening. Then Bingo sprang to his feet. Without a sound, he raced toward the forest. Dyke grabbed his hunting spear. Several experienced hunters followed. Chica secretly followed behind despite warnings. The group carried burning torches into the darkness. The deeper they traveled, the quieter the forest became. No insects sang, no birds called. Only the sound of footsteps filled the night. Then Bingo froze. The hunters put off their lights. Ahead stood the enormous ancient Iroko tree. Beside it appeared a dark figure. The hunters tightened their grips on their weapons. Slowly they moved closer. Their hearts pounded. The figure remained motionless. At first it appeared supernatural. Then one hunter noticed something. The figure was holding a spear. Another held a machete. More shadows emerged. Human shadows. Not spirits. Men. Dangerous men. Hidden beneath the giant tree sat a large group of armed bandits. The criminals had secretly camped inside the forest for many weeks. They had been studying the village, watching, waiting. Their leader pointed toward Obinagu. The hunters listened carefully. What they heard chilled their blood. The bandits planned to attack during the upcoming market festival. The village would be crowded. Visitors from neighboring communities would fill the streets. The criminals intended to steal goods, livestock, and valuables. Anyone who resisted would be harmed. The hunters immediately withdrew without being noticed. Back in the village, they informed the elders. A plan was quickly formed. Before dawn, every able-bodied man prepared for battle. Hidden groups surrounded the bandits' camp from every direction. The criminals never expected resistance. At sunrise, the trap was sprung. A fierce struggle followed. Spears clashed. Voices shouted. Bandits attempted to flee, but the villagers were ready. Many criminals were captured. Others escaped into the distant wilderness. When the battle ended, Obinagu was safe. The village erupted in celebration. Drums echoed across the land. Women danced joyfully. Children sang victory songs. The elders praised the hunters. But above all, they honored the dogs, especially Bingo. Without their warnings, the village would never have discovered the danger. During the celebration, Mazi Okonkwo stood before the people. His voice carried across the square. "Today we have learned a valuable lesson." The crowd became silent. "Never ignore a warning simply because you do not understand it." He pointed toward Bingo. "Wisdom often speaks through unexpected voices." The villagers nodded. They understood. From that day forward, the people of Obinagu treated their dogs with even greater respect. Whenever dogs cried during the night, people listened carefully. Not because they feared spirits, but because they remembered how danger once hid beyond the forest. And so the elders continued telling the story to future generations. Some say dogs cry because they see spirits. Others believe they sense dangers invisible to humans. Whatever the truth may be, wise people pay attention when nature speaks. For sometimes the smallest warning can save an entire village. And that is the story of why many people believe dogs cry at night,